All right, guys, back again. So in the last video, I was talking about the idea of feeling the bullet for the first time, this mystical amorphous thing that's been referred to for decades as the hit or maybe the contact point and so on. And what that truly is, how your brain begins to understand it, and how eventually, with practice, your brain will begin to predict and anticipate exactly where the bullet appears, where your body has to brace properly to compress everything, including your side and your trailing leg, against the gigantic inertial mass, the weight of the bullet as it's accelerating out to the release point. So I want to talk in this video about the idea of how to find the bullet. Because at the beginning, as you start to understand these biomechanics, the first thing you're really going to be able to find when it comes to the bullet is the inertial mass of your arm. When I first started learning this for real last year, actually, after way too long of trying to figure it out, I began to understand what was really going on when I was swinging my arm the correct way. Once I had figured out how to brace properly and how lateral compression was causing my arm to swing on its own, once I started to add energy into that, I started to really feel that weight in a pronounced way. And it was in my arm, it was in my hand. And yet when I tried to pick up a disc, whether it was a putter, whether it was a mid or a driver, it didn't work anymore. I couldn't get the same result. I had to go into a complete standstill and really focus on being linear to feel that same heaviness, to feel the bullet when I had a disc in my hand. And I couldn't figure out what the hell was going on, because I could produce beautiful form without a disc, either throwing just across a room or swinging into a net or whatever. But the mechanism just stopped working as soon as I added a disc to it. And I figured out a bunch of things in that whole progression from last year till now, which have given me clues about exactly what was going on. But at its heart, the thing I was struggling to do was finding the bullet, finding the point of inertial mass with an actual disc. It took me a long time to train it, but I think I've kind of figured it all out. And I'm going to use a couple of discs to demonstrate to you guys about what I'm talking about. I have 4 discs here. I have an Electron Envy. I have a Champion Shrike. I have, I guess it's a Lucid Trespass, recommended to me by Lee. Apparently this is going to be a great disc to throw as my form continues to improve. And then finally I have a Wraith, a Star Wraith right here. And these guys are sort of on a bit of a continuum from where the location of the bullet is based on the native inertial mass of the disc. So we know that discs are different, right? We know that they have different weight distributions. If you look at the rim of a putter, you can see that nearly all the mass in this putter is around the edge, but it's very thin. The flight plate is also, I think, quite a bit thicker on something like an Envy versus a Shrike. But you have a more even distribution of mass in this object versus, say, this one, where you can see that the flight plate is thinner and you have more weight spread out across the rim of the disc. So the inertial center of mass for this disc is very different from this one. And that's different from this one. And then you've got the chunkiest one of all, this Wraith at the end, which is a pretty overstable disc. It says -1.3, but this thing, a max weight Wraith, is it's a beefy disc. It's very overstable. So what does it mean to find the bullet when you are throwing discs of different types? If you start with a putter, the putter is going to, the center of mass for the putter basically, and its bullet point is going to be probably almost directly in front of you, possibly even angled a little bit off to the left once you understand the biomechanics. And what that means is that you can actually, your brain with practice, after throwing these discs a bunch of times, your brain begins to actually understand where the bullet appears. Once you've found it a few times, it's pretty easy to lock into it. And so you can actually take a bit of a test walk-up to see one particularly important clue. You may have noticed that a lot of the time when you watch a player like Mcbeth getting ready to throw a drive, you watch him walk up and he'll stand there on the tee pad and he'll kind of do this thing where he's like, you see him doing some practice dry swings, holding the disc up. And for all the years that I saw Mcbeth and other people doing that, I was just assuming that they were creating a mental vision of where they were going to be throwing. But I think that they're doing something else intuitively, actually. They're feeling for the bullet in their mind. And based on where they're feeling the bullet at the moment, probably based on things like how slippery the ground is, how tired they are, the intention of the shot, the height of the shot, they're actually changing the trajectory of their angle of attack down the T-pad, so that when the bracing occurs and the left arm comes in to brace against the weight of the bullet, the whole mechanism is linear based on the line that they're intending to throw. Your brain actually knows it. It's really, really cool. So if I do a slow walk up with this putter right here with the envy, let me see what happens if I walk this way, intending to throw there. And by that I mean I'm going to be walking left to right with the intention of throwing a little bit to the left. So if I go this way and I try to throw with an envy, my arm is coming in front of my body right now, which means that it's actually intending to throw that way, and I'm way off target. So it would be extremely tough for me to throw this envy down, aiming to the left side by moving left to right. I actually have to create an offset a little bit, maybe a differential of 10 to 15 degrees as I walk down the T-pad, so that when I stride with this envy in my hand intending to throw it straight, my arm will brace up against my body because it knows where the lateral weight shift is occurring and where the disc wants to eject where the bullet is. So if I move, create an offset while looking forward, that feels about right. My arm is now in the right spot. So I don't have to create much of an offset, but I do have to move slightly right to left to throw straight down the line. If I switch over to a driver, like the Shrike, and I try to walk that same line, all of a sudden to brace, it moved. Look at that, it moved like 10 to 15 degrees to the right, because the bullet for the driver is actually in a different spot from the putter. If I switch over to throwing the trespass, which I don't have a lot of experience with, I don't really know what it's going to try to do. That feels more straight down the middle. So my brain is guessing that its inertial mass is more similar to the putter. But I do know that this beefy boy right here, this guy needs to be released way over there. The bullet is in a totally different place. Look at that. When I want to brace against this thing, it's pointing it that way across my body. So I have to create an offset in my walk up to accommodate that. Instead of walking in a straight line, I have to move way over here and come in at a different angle of attack so that when I brace, now it's going straight. So you've probably seen this when you watch guys like Mcbeth again bomb. He doesn't walk straight down the T-pad. He starts way over here to the right of it. And the reason why he's doing this is because he knows that his overstable Hades or whatever, or his Zeus, is going across his body out at a much more almost hyzer angle. And if you're not doing that, if you're not adjusting your angle of attack accordingly, you will never find the bullet. Your arm will be in a weird place because your brain will expect the brace to the whole body brace to occur in a completely different spot. The bullet will be fuzzy. To find the bullet, which your brain will understand very intuitively as you cycle through discs, requires repetition and, again, paying attention to that one clue. Where does the left arm want to come in, so that instead of compressing in front of you or coming behind your body, as you'll see some people do, the arm wants to come right against your side. When the arm is coming right against your side, naturally, and you don't have to think about it, because again, it's another automatic consequence of instinctive bracing against a heavy object. When the arm is in alignment with the trajectory, you found the bullet for that particular disc. And of course, it does change based on how fatigued you are, again, how grippy the surface is, whether it's slippery or really, really firm, whether or not you're planning to throw long and far. There's so many different dimensions that you can discover, and every disc has a different bullet also based on its weight and other things too. It's a really, really fascinating subject. I'll be talking about it a lot more at length. But again, first you must feel the bullet, feel that inertial mass, then find it for all the individual discs in your bag, and you'll be on your way to throwing like a pro. Looking forward to more discussions in the future. See you guys soon.